Well, welcome back, everybody. And I hope you're having a great day. We're back on the ROS Media channel. I know today that we're going to talk about something quite significant, and I'm really excited about this. I'm joined with a colleague of mine here at the Republic of Old Souls. So Ange is with us to talk a little bit about tax transcripts. You know, we often hear that knowledge is power, but when we talk about the Clifford Protocol, documentation is the power here. And today we're going to show you multiple confirmed wages and tax transcripts. Now, Ange, you've been here pretty much since day one, haven't you? I mean, you've seen the filing team, you've seen them working with the ERO software, you've seen these transcripts come back in, and I've got, you know, multiple examples of those as well that we can share with people today. But before we kind of dive into that, I mean, could you just briefly tell us a little bit about, you know, your role and what you've done in helping put this together?
Yeah, of course. Hi, Andy. Well, in a nutshell, really, I suppose my time here has been assisting with IT infrastructure and setup and management, which basically means helping different departments digitalize and organize their workflows and processes to make it as streamlined as possible from end to end. And what that means in real terms is helping to develop automations for efficiency, data record management, audit trail, reporting, and all the things that go with that sort of side of things on the IT side. There's loads of different softwares involved in all the different departments, and not least to mention our platform that we've got that is really sort of integrated into every area of what goes on. And of course, along those, that all needs coordination. So I really have been the go-between between the departments and their requirements and the tech dev teams that actually do a lot of the building of the platforms. And we set up all the different softwares for everyone. Anyone watching this who is a member will know that we've got member platforms, advocate platforms, administrative platforms. And it means that we have, you know, all the data management is all interlinked between all of those platforms. So really my role has been to help all those departments and all those digital platforms integrate with one another and coordinate to make sure everything is as streamlined as it possibly can be. Okay.
So I guess with you being involved in every single department, clearly that includes the filing team and the filing department as well. So you've seen that in action, haven't you? I mean, I've got here just a couple of examples, and I've held these up on screen a few times on different interviews with Ian. These are actual wages and tax transcripts. I'm going to share my screen, guys, in a moment, and I'm going to show you some of these in a little bit more clearer detail. But from a member perspective, Ange, I mean, why is this so significant, this piece of paper, do you feel?
Well, the transcript, really, it's the IRS's confirmation. It's an admission of truth, to want to put it a better way. It proves really that the credit, or the credit energy rather, is originated by the living being or the living soul, which is you or me. And it shows that it's moved from abandoned property to your wages and tax transcript, basically like the one you're holding. I'm hoping we'll get a closer view of it in a minute. Yeah. So really, once it's on once it's on that transcript, it then shows that it's ready to be moved to your or my 98 trust, which is the end destination of where we want to move that credit to. And seeing it on a transcript means that the IRS has already gone through all of their processes and algorithms, the automated processes, and confirms that the math is mathing. That's kind of the best way to put it, really.
Yeah. So numbers are verified at the IRS. They wouldn't put it on the transcript unless it was fully verified, had passed through all their algorithmic checking. So, you know, this is basically the IRS saying, yes, we agree with this amount. This belongs to you. Where do you want it? Where do you want it sending? That's essentially what they're saying, isn't it? So this is a really significant step and a significant piece of paper for any member to receive. And I know we've had an awful lot received. I think over 600 million in confirmed transcript recoupments out of the 2 billion that we originally filed. We're not going to go into detail about the September sabotage today. You know, Ian and I have done plenty of interviews on that side of things. So if you're an existing member, you'll know why you haven't received your your recoupment funds yet. You know where we're at, but this is pinnacle to that. This is a real pivotal point in that if we've had that amount confirmed, and we're going to show you some eye-watering numbers today, to be quite honest with you. We're not just talking about a few $1,000s here and there, and that it worked here, but it didn't quite work over there. Oh, but this one came through and that one worked, but this one didn't. This is transcript after transcript after transcript.
Yeah, there's a lot.
Multiples of millions of dollars here. So I know that you don't work in the filing team, Ange, but with you being responsible for sort of interconnecting multiple departments and the software side of things and just making sure that everything flows as it should do, could you maybe just walk us through the journey, you know, from the moment somebody signs a loan and then they see that then on the transcript, what's actually happening behind the scenes? I know Ian and I have done a recent interview about this in terms of how signature currency creation or how signature credit recoupment works, but just for layman terms, what's the sequence here?
Yeah, well, I mean, the process of getting the credit all the way through to the transcript, it's really just a sequence that the filing team follows. Obviously, there's a lot of complexities that go with it in the day-to-day and actually how they action that. But I mean, really, the high-level workflow is that they firstly have to identify that the member's signature actually created the credit. So that's sort of evidencing that it exists there. And then it moves to a corrective filing. So what they will do is they have a specialist dedicated software that is set up by the ERO officer, this tax preparer that uses the dedicated software to file a 1099 OID. And what that does is it identifies the specific bank or institution that is the nominee, which is basically a middleman that has captured and is using that credit. And the OID submission is then initially accepted at that level. And then it goes into the IRS system. And then what that effectively does is it then gets run through the IRS's 810 algorithm, and it cross-references that particular identified bank and their 945 module form that they have to submit to make sure that it all aligns. So when the OID goes in with it has a QSIP or an LEI, which is what the bank institution is matched up with. And if everything in the IRS is all matched and all aligned, then the credit is validated. And that's when the transcript then occurs. And that's where the change and the update happens effectively. That information populates on your wage and tax transcript. And that is the moment really that you know that, I mean, that's the hard bit. That's the hard gate that is passed to then know that the refund is then due.
Right. So there's quite a sequence of events that have to happen at the IRS before it even gets to transcript level. So I guess what you're saying here is if it's gone through all of those procedures, it's gone through the algorithm, it's checked the numbers, it's found the bank as the nominee, it's then gone to the 945 module. And Ian and I have spoken about this on the interview that we've literally just done about currency creation. We then have to verify that there's enough taxes on the 945 module to accommodate that recoupment as well, because common to what a lot of people, misconception with what a lot of people may think, and I know some of this might have come down to terminology that we've used in the past, bank payment recoupment. You're not actually recouping the payments that you've made. You're recouping the taxes that the investment banks are paying for the use of your credit energy. That's what we're recouping. And it's those taxes that the investment banks pay onto the 945 module. So providing everything all kind of slots into place, and we know there's enough on the 945 to accommodate that, that's when they will then issue the actual transcript itself.
I mean, adverse to that is that if there isn't enough on the 945 module, it will be rejected and there'll be a hold on it, and it won't go anywhere and it won't appear on the transcript. So that's a positive so when things show on a transcript, you know that all of those markers have been ticked along that process and that everything's been successful.
Yeah. And in case you guys are panicking out there thinking, well, what if it does get rejected because there isn't enough on the 945 module? Watch Ian and I's interview that we've just done on currency creation, because we explain in there how out of all the different tax modules that the banks file taxes onto, the 945 is a priority module, is the priority module. And you have the ability to what you can do is what's called a cross-modular transfer from one of the other tax modules to the 945. So to keep this really simple, let's say that we had $1 billion worth of recoupments that we wanted to file. And on that particular 945 module, there wasn't $1 billion. There was only $500 million, let's just say. And then on one of the other modules, there was 10 billion in taxes paid. We can simply move or instruct the IRS. We're not asking them, we're telling them to move what's necessary from another module onto the 945 to accommodate these recoupments, these taxes withheld. So either way, there's a way to do this. And I think that is so significant that it's gone through all those different processes. Everything's been verified by the IRS, even the amount on the 945. And when they know that there's enough on there to accommodate these tax recoupments, that they issue the transcripts. So let's look at some examples of that, because I'm sure you guys are wanting to see some more examples. And I know you couldn't really see what that was. So I'm going to share my screen and I'm just going to walk you through a few examples that I've seen. I mean, we've got hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of examples. I've just put together a few pages worth here. These are all redacted, but you can still see, hopefully you can see this on my screen. These first two are actually mine and my wife's. So, and I don't mind you seeing the amounts. We've put them up here, put a little lens over there so you can see the amounts. I want you to understand, guys, that these are not just a few pounds and pennies here or a few dollars. Some of these are significant amounts of money that the IRS have actually agreed with, verified on the 945, and sent the transcript. So we know that it's real. So that's one for myself or my wife. There's a smaller one down here for about $60,000. We've got some others here. Look at this one, 2,184,000, 1,856,000. 3,744,000. They just go on and on and on. Here's another one, 3,762,000. There's some small ones as well. Look, 18,000, just under $19,000. But then look at some of these: 22.5 million, 78,000, 229,000. 330,000, 9,385,000. These are huge amounts, aren't they, Ange? They really are. So I hope this is making sense to you guys in terms of the significance of what this actually is that you're seeing on screen. You know, however small some amounts may seem in comparison to others, these are all completely qualified transcripts that have passed the 810 algorithm. And the IRS are basically saying, this belongs to you. Where do you want it sending? So what I want to do now, Ange, let me just come back to you on screen as well. Really, what I want to talk about next is, once we've got that in place and we know that the amount that's on the 945 has been qualified by the IRS, we then have to start thinking about, well, if the IRS are telling us where do we send it to, the next step is the banking rails, really, isn't it? And what happens there? And I know that another development in this whole kind of process is that we are in very high level talks with banks at institutional level to do with banking rails. And we have had from one of the largest banks in the US, I believe, up until this point, we've had a tentative agreement from them as a partner to set this structure up, this sort of master and sub account structure. I mean, why is that significant when it comes to receiving funds? If all of this was not legal, not lawful, or, you know, pie in the sky, woo-woo, doesn't work, why would a bank of that size say, having seen everything, having been transparent with them, say, okay, we do ACH, we do Fedwire, we understand your master and sub account structure. Let's talk about that.
Yeah, I mean, look, institutions simply wouldn't agree to anything in the first place if they thought there was any indication that a process was inaccurate, unlawful, dodgy, whatever the word would be. They're all about compliance. I'm sure many people know that already, hoops you've got to jump through to qualify for certain things. So, I mean, I am aware that when these conversations are happening, whilst not directly involved, there are technical documents that are supplied as part of a compliance process. There's many levels and discussions that take place with different people within an institutional structure. And it's critical. You know, no bank is going to take on something. It's all about risk management at the end of the day. And I think across, like you mentioned earlier, across all of the members' transcripts that we've had today, I think it's in the billions or billions of dollars, I should say, and it's not pounds, it's dollars. So the fact that they've agreed to set up this structure is absolutely huge. And it's a complete validation of the process that we're proceeding with.
Yeah. I'm so excited for members to see this this little interview that we've done here, because I know that it's the number one thing that's on most members' mind, isn't it? When are we going to see our recoupments? I can tell you guys categorically, it's the number one thing that's on our mind as well at the moment.
Every day.
You know, we want this as much as you do, because, you know, again, regardless of what you feel you're going to do with your recoupments, if you understood fully what we want to do with the back end fees for the recoupments or the back end donations, it's the freedom plan. Because ultimately we're looking at building out an infrastructure that will sit in parallel to the system as we know it. I think if you don't understand by now, you soon will do. It's not worth fighting the system. You'll lose, you know, but what we can do is we can create an alternative ecosystem for people to be able to operate in, with good healthcare, with farm to table food, with free and abundant energy sources, with travel, with communication and internet, even with our own currency that would be backed by something of substance, not our own credit energy, something that's backed by real assets like gold and silver. That is going to take an immense amount of resource. And unfortunately, in the world that we live in, it's going to require an immense amount of quote unquote money, if we want to call it that. So everything that we're doing and everything that we're working towards with the Freedom Plan, it absolutely hinges on recoupment working. And I feel that this evidence that we've had over the last few months of these transcripts coming in, and despite the sabotage, despite the challenges that we've faced, the process that we're putting into place now is exactly the same. We haven't changed anything. We're doing it in the same way. Why? Because we know it works. So it's simply a matter of time. And now we're at that final hurdle, or that final sort of challenge of just getting the banking rails set up, linking that to people's asset fortress protocols, so that when they realize the funds, they can get themselves into what Ian calls this infinity loop of spend and recoup, spend and recoup. And if you're smart about that, you'll take money that has no value and you'll use it to buy things that do have value. So you'll start buying gold, you'll start buying silver, you'll start buying assets that you can put into your asset fortress and future-proof your family. And what we'll be doing at the back end of all of that, while you're enjoying your recoupments, we'll be using the donations at the back end to build out a robust infrastructure for the Freedom Plan, so that whatever happens in the world around us, instead of us trying to fight that, we simply don't need to be affected by it. And we can live peacefully in our own little structure as a nation, 500,000 envoys. That is the goal, and that is the Freedom Plan. So, Ange, thank you so much for joining us today and for walking us through that. If you're watching, the transcripts don't lie. You know, the institutional banking rails are being put in place. If you want to see what this end-to-end journey or process would look like and how it would work for you, then I suggest you get in touch with our team. If you're not in our private members association here at the Republic of Old Souls, please join. It's free to join. And if you want to book a call, we've got a team of consultants that can jump on a call with you and that can map out what that recoupment journey and what that asset fortress journey looks like for you and your family. So again, Ange, thanks for joining us. And if you're watching, have a fantastic day. And I will no doubt see you on the next one soon. Bye for now.
Cheers.